Hi, fellow TTC, IVF fertility tribe. It's Bianca Smith. I'm a good friend and colleague of Monica Beavers, who, of course, started this group. Her and I have been trying for a while to get together so that we can do a Facebook Live, but of course, as you know, life happens, and we just haven't got there yet. So what I've decided to do in the meanwhile is do a little recording for you, discussing my story, and I'm happy to come back here and answer any of your questions. So once you've watched the recording, pop your questions in the comments box, and I'm happy to come and answer them if I can. Excuse my office, it's quite plain. I've got nothing on the walls. Having little toddlers running around, I don't actually have much time to spend in the office. It is really difficult trying to find time to do anything. I thought I would, excuse my cat as well. She's ripped my chair apart, as you can see. This is Scruffy Cat. Yeah, I thought I would be able to work from home, but my boys and I are 2.5 years old, and yeah, have really not been able to do much work at home. I managed to get out 2 extra books, but yeah, that was like working in the middle of the night, which is not ideal because I do love my sleep, and especially it's a tiring day most days. So how did I get to these twins? Well, my journey started about 14 years ago now, maybe, somewhere around there. I'm originally from South Africa, and I was married before, so my husband and I decided at the time, I was 29 years old, and we thought, well, we're going to get married next year, and let's may as well go off the pill now and get that family rolling. Well, 2 years later, nothing was happening. Went to the specialist, went to the gynae, and was told I had PCOS, I had an overactive thyroid. I was actually told I had Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disease, and it's usually when the thyroid is overactive. The doctors there were pushing for me to get my thyroid taken out. The 2 options with that are either have it cut out, so a big scar across the neck, which these days, if I have to have it done, I don't mind. As you can see, I'm full of tattoos everywhere, so if I really have to get it out now, I'm happy just to, cover the scar with a tattoo. The other option is to go to swallow some radioactive stuff. Don't know what it is exactly now, but it dissolves your thyroid, but you are radioactive for 6 months to a year after. You can't share anything with anyone. And as we were actively trying, and we were really hoping that we were going to have kids, within the next few months, I wasn't prepared to go down either of those routes anyway. They put me on a lot of medication, which made me really sick. A combination of stuff, probably the doses weren't right. There were all sorts of things going on, but things happen pretty slowly in South Africa. At least they did 15 years ago. So nothing much was being done. Anyway, to make a long story short, that hubby and I eventually split up for many reasons. And then I moved to the UK and met my current hubby. I warned him from the beginning that I probably wouldn't be able to have any kids, and he was still happy to be with me whether we have kids or not, and happy also to go through the IVF route if the opportunity presented itself. Luckily, we were living in the UK at the time, and luckily there is, well, should I say, lucky for some, unlucky for others, there's a kind of postcode lottery, as they call it. So in some areas where you live, you can get from 1 to 3 IVF cycles for free. Unfortunately, other areas you can't get any. There are some stipulations where you have to be of a certain age. You can't, either of you can't have had kids before. And I can't remember what everything else was right now. Anyway, we decided that we would like to pursue IVF. So from the moment that we went to go see the GP and said we want to start fertility treatments to the moment I actually started the IVF medication took 2.5 years. This was 2.5 years of so many tests. I had the thyroid again. My thyroid had to be balanced, so I was put on thyroid medication to balance my thyroid. They discovered I didn't have PCOS at the time. Subsequently, I realized, and I was actually advised by a fertility specialist, that PCOS can come and go. You can have PCOS every day of your life, or you can have it sporadically. You can have it maybe this year, and maybe next year not, then it can come back, and so on. In fact, incidentally, that's the same with endometriosis. Well, not exactly the same, but you might not have endometriosis for a few years and then it could come back viciously. You might only have endometriosis level 2. You get level 1 to 4. Level 2 now, but in a few years' time it could be level 4. I had laparoscopy to cut out my endometriosis. I had level 2, and the doctor advised me that it's not the end of it, that even though you cut it out, it can grow back anytime. He says usually it starts growing back about a year later. Of course, I'm not going to keep doing laparoscopies, so I'm just kind of living with the endo, and yeah, you kind of get to live with that kind of thing and just learn to cope, really. It was a long time before I realized that was the cause. Not the cause, but or let's put it this way, it was a long time before I realized that I had endometriosis, because it is not something that you can see. It's not, when you go for a scan and all these tests that the doctors are doing, there is zero test that can tell you whether you have endometriosis or not. Some people have zero symptoms, some people have loads of symptoms. The only way to see endometriosis is by keyhole surgery, which is the laparoscopy. So they put down in your belly button, they put a camera down to check whether you've got any of it, and if you do, then they do the incision. So they cut everything away. So that was a side note. That came years later because no one suggested that I possibly have endometriosis, even after my many fails. I had many fails. I did 8 rounds of IVF cycles. So I did 4 egg collections. 3 of them were fresh IVF transfer. The 4th one was 1 frozen egg. So I had 1 frozen one left from, I think it was cycle 2, which I did for my 4th transfer. I also did a natural transfer, which I don't know. I don't think that natural isn't for everyone. When by the time you've reached the stage that you need infertility or you need fertility treatments, natural doesn't really, I don't know, to me it was a bit of a waste of time and a waste of an embryo, really. Then for number 5, we went to Czech Republic and we went to Brno. Yes. It was quite a popular clinic at the time, and we felt very, very hopeful. We did an egg donation. The reason why I chose Czech was because one, my family is from Czech, like my grandparents, so it kind of was, my father is German, it kind of was, I thought, nice and the features. At that time, I'm still busy. I was mourning the loss of my own eggs, the loss of my genetics, and I wanted something as close to me as possible. So that was one of the reasons why we chose Czech. The other reason was the really good costs. It was like a fourth of the price of going to a clinic for egg donation in the UK, including flights and accommodation and food and everything that we needed for a week stay. So I did. Oh, the other thing was that our consultant in the UK told us that the Czech is one of the best countries to go to. The technology is outstanding. The medication is up to date. All the procedures are really state of the art. And in fact, she said much better than the UK. I don't think she was supposed to say that, but so the fifth cycle was in Czech, and it was a donated egg and another fail. We had one frozen. Sixth cycle was another fail. By this time I was doing, so I had a laparoscopy. I had a hysteroscopy. I had, so that's, they check in there to see whether there's something wrong with the shape of your womb. They did find that my womb was a little bit in, but they said that shouldn't affect fertility, so they, just straightened it up. I also had the ERA, which is one of those popular procedures these days. When I did it, they did not, no one had really heard of it. No clinic. There was one clinic in the UK that was offering it, but they still sent it away to Europe. They sent it in Spain, sent it to Spain. So, in fact, that's where I did all these tests. We had decided to go to a clinic in Spain, a highly recommended clinic, and we did so many tests initially, all sorts of genetic tests. This is also when I discovered that I had the MTHFR, which is the methylfolate gene mutation. Don't ask me to say the long word. I usually say a swear word. But yeah, MTHFR is the abbreviation, and that's there's a lot of things involved in that, and that's in a nutshell, your body is more toxic than the average person's body. So it takes longer for your system to flush toxins of any kind. This is toxins in your food, toxins in the air, toxins in your cleaning products, toxins in your makeup, toxins in over-the-counter medications, as well as folic acid. When you have this gene mutation, you cannot take normal folic acid. It is toxic to you. You need natural methylfolate. Also, most of the time you are lacking in the B vitamins. At the time I was vegan, and I'd been vegan for a year, and I was not eating many products with vitamin B12 because I don't eat a lot of beans and legumes and nuts and things like that because I struggle with digesting it. And I was eating a lot of soy at the time, but it wasn't enough vitamin B12. Also, you can get vitamin B12 from vegetables such as your spinach and your greens, your kale and things like that. Again, you need practically a whole football field before it's enough vitamin B12. So supplements are the way to go. I didn't take any supplements before that. So when they told me I had this gene mutation, they gave me vitamin B1, B6 and B12 supplements, plus I got rid of all the toxins. As many toxic products as I could. So I got rid of my cookware. I swapped my cookware. In the non-stick cookware has got in the Teflon. It's very toxic, especially when you heat it up. So in general, no one should use non-stick cookware. I swapped that for what is it called now? Okay, I've gone blank now. It's in my kitchen. I'll have to get back to you. What is it called? Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. I got rid of all my cosmetics, all my cleaning products that were, and only bought natural ones. So as natural as possible, no fragrances, no as little chemicals as possible. This was in all. This was in my makeup, in my hair products, in my general toiletries, my soap, in my, or everything was with cleaning, my laundry, my air spray, yeah, so many things. And I started slowly. Obviously, no one can do this overnight, and no one has got the money to do this overnight. I can't just like trash all your stuff and, well, there we go, and go out on a big shopping spree of thousands the next day. So I did it slowly, started incorporating it. I also started eating meat again, animal products. This was just because the reason why I did, no, they didn't tell me to, was because I was so desperate, and I thought, oh, maybe because I'm vegan that you know, I'm spoiling my chances of conceiving. So I started eating animal products again. I'm vegetarian now, but at the time, you're desperate. I mean, I've heard so many things that people have tried, all sorts of catches. Some of them good, some of them not so good. I personally did, I did acupuncture. I did a lot of acupuncture, daily acupuncture, hours and hours. I spent thousands of pounds on acupuncture. I did fertility massage. I did fertility yoga. I did chakra cleansing. I did lymph drainage. What else? Loads of meditation, but that should be a standard in life anyway. Nothing to do with fertility. What else? I did all different exercises. I kept changing my diet. So I kept thinking, okay, what is needed for fertility? So many walnuts. You know, that's one of the things. Oh, implantation, walnuts, pineapple core, tomatoes, avos. There's constantly something coming up. So I tried everything. I tried a lot. Constantly. I stopped drinking alcohol. I did get trashed in between in between failed cycles. Or should I say, not a full in between, but like a few days straight after my fail. All of you that have had at least one fail know how it rips your heart out. Yeah, but then you need to get back up and begin again. I think what kept me going at the time was another cycle. I kind of got addicted to cycles, and a lot of people do that in IVF. You get addicted to, how should I put this? You're not quite, you're dealing with this pressure, dealing with pressure of aging. You're dealing with the pressure of society. Where's your kids? Why don't you have kids? Are you trying to have kids? Oh, were you pregnant? Everyone's pregnant. You're dealing with all these things battering your body, all these injections, all these going to menopause, go out of menopause, going to menopause, go out of menopause, all these hormones, the progesterone, the estrogen, the steroids. I was on a lot of steroids as well. I was on blood thinners as well. So I'm trying to think what else, all sorts of vitamins. It is just, so you're dealing with so much stuff on your IVF cycle, and you're living from cycle to cycle. So all was keeping me going was the next cycle, which is kind of like, it's kind of a false sense of security, because you kind of like, I wasn't really dealing with my PTSD. I wasn't dealing with my emotions. I was living for the next cycle. So the last cycle, number 8, this was shortly after my laparoscopy. So I thought, that's the answer. Endo. Yeah, endo's gone. Now I'm ready to fall pregnant. I had my laparoscopy in the January, and March was my transfer. I think it was the 6th of April I had to do. This is 2016. I had to do my test. It was the same day that we relocated from the UK to Florida in the US. And I was eager, excited to start our new family adventures in our new country, in the sunshine. We had a beautiful apartment on the coast, on the bay, with dolphins and manatees and all sorts of things, and this was the game changer. Excuse me. Well, yeah, it was another negative test. So this was eight transfers I had. I'd even, I forgot to tell you, number 7, I had tried a adopted, I suppose we shouldn't call it adopted. It was more like a donated, yes, donated embryo. So it was completely someone else's egg and sperm. My husband was on board. I was like, we've tried everything else, maybe it's your sperm. Even the embryo didn't attach. And that was my main problems, was the attachment. My first IVF actually worked. I was in shock. I was, wow, so many people told me, don't even get excited about the first one. The first one doesn't work for most people, so don't get excited. I remember it was 4 o'clock in the morning on the day that they told me to do my HPT, my home pregnancy test, and I just couldn't focus. Oh, and I had a stinking cold. I was so thirsty. I couldn't breathe. My cold was terrible. 4 o'clock in the morning, went to the bathroom, and for the first time in my entire life, I saw 2 lines on that test. It was an experience I can't describe. It was one of a kind experience. That was the first and last time that I actually saw 2 lines in a pregnancy test. So you can imagine the elation. I couldn't go back to sleep, obviously. Jumped on the bed, woke up my husband. We went out, got a bunch more tests just to make sure. We were so excited. Went for breakfast. I was like, oh, I can't have a mimosa because I'm pregnant. Yeah. So at 6 weeks, we went for our viability scan to check whether, how many embryos I took, if it is attaching, if it's growing properly. At 6 weeks, we couldn't hear the heartbeat yet. They could see the flashing, so you can see the heartbeat. It was very small though, but they like, yeah, all good. 1 embryo took, viable pregnancy. At about 8 weeks, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I was terribly ill. I think I had food poisoning. I don't know for sure, but I was terribly ill, and my husband was away for work. He came to America often for work, and I said, I feel like something is wrong. I'm sure something is wrong, but I think there's something wrong with the baby because I've been so sick. And then everyone was telling me, no, it's just morning sickness. Don't worry about it. It's a good thing. When you get this bad morning sickness, I couldn't smell anything. I was nauseous from morning till night. Nothing worked. And everyone's like, that's great. You want that morning sickness because that means it is a good pregnancy. So then came 12 weeks, our 12-week scan. My husband was due to fly to America on the Friday. On the Saturday, the Wednesday we went for the scan. He actually was going to go early, and I said to him, please don't go early because, just in case. I'm not expecting anything to happen, but just in case, I want you to be with me. If any news is bad, I don't want to be by myself. And I actually wasn't expecting anything other than, because we knew that we were doing the Down syndrome test. I forget what it's called, sorry. So I was a bit, nervous about that, as one would be. It's like, is the baby, good? All the chromosomes good? So when I lay down and looked at the screen, and the nurse could find, or the technician could find nothing on the screen other than a big blob. I know before, when I've seen people's 12-week scans, it actually looks like a baby, and all that there was a blob on the screen. I was pleased that the equipment be faulty. I was really praying that the equipment would be faulty. A few more people came in, checked the scan. They're like, sorry, baby's heartbeat is not there. We estimate that it stopped at around about 8 weeks, because that's the growth of 8 weeks. Devastated is not even, I don't even think there's any words to describe how I felt. It's still quite, I mean, this was 2013, and even now I can still feel the effects of it. I don't know if it ever goes away. Maybe it does for people that have had successful pregnancies afterwards, but I've never been pregnant again afterwards, so that was my only chance. So it still gets raw. So I don't like to speak about it too often, but I know people have been through much worse. I mean, it essentially was 8 weeks, or for me it was 12 weeks, because even between that 8 and 12 weeks, I was doing pregnancy tests every day. I was doing about 3 a day, and the lines were still really strong. It's so bizarre. And the reason is because I never had an actual miscarriage. So I never bled. It was a missed miscarriage, or also called a silent miscarriage. So the embryo was still attached to the womb, to the lining, but it died still attached. So the next step was they asked me, do I want tablets to make it, to flush it from my system naturally, and this could take about 2 weeks, they told me, or do I want a procedure to just get it taken out immediately. I couldn't, my thoughts were, I can't deal with this whole thing being drawn out. I can't deal with the 2 weeks of, slowly losing a baby. I know it had already died, but I just wanted to get everything out of my system and get myself ready to start again, to do the next cycle. Because this was cycle 1 after all. So they performed a procedure. It wasn't a DNC. It is an evacuation of, I think it's retained products of conception. So the way they describe it is like a sucker. So they suck it out. Yeah, not very great. Not a pretty picture, but that's the facts. I don't know. I have no proof whatsoever. I don't know if that was the cause of me never being able to be pregnant after that. Everyone was, and that was my consultant and so many professionals in the field, thought, well, your IVF worked the first time, so of course it's going to work again. Of course it is. I mean, everyone has, 1 in 4 have miscarriages. That is normal. That's got nothing to do with infertility. Big hopes for the next one. Well, yeah. So I was devastated, but I was hopeful. And then, of course, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and a few years later, yeah, definitely not. So we were here in April 2016, just failed my 8th pregnancy test, and I was devastated, of course. And we didn't know. We were like, we had 1 embryo still in the Czech Republic. It was a donor egg plus my husband's sperm, sitting on ice. But we were like, why will this one work if all the other ones failed? And most of the time it was only the frozen transfers that we were putting back 1 egg every embryo. So every other time it was 2 embryos. So I mean, add them all, that's a lot of embryos that just didn't stick to the lining. So my husband was, I think we should just stop. I think we should just accept that we're going to be a childless couple and just enjoy life. I reluctantly accepted, but I just couldn't let it go. So for the next 2-3 months, I was living in a new place, Florida, on the beach. All I did was, I wasn't working and I was just trying to heal. So all I did was go to the beach. I was in between lying on the beach, swimming in the sea, and getting absolutely wasted on cocktails. I wouldn't advise it. Don't, it's not a suggestion. But we all deal with things in our own way. We all heal differently, and I just needed that. I didn't even put on my computer most of the time. I had people, all my readers of my blog. I had the readers of my blog. I had all my friends, my everyday friends. I had all my fertility friends. I was in about 15 different fertility groups at the time, and everyone was like, where are you, what you're doing? I had messages, I had emails, I had phone messages, WhatsApp messages, I had everything, and I just ignored it all. I just had to figure out what I could do, where I'm going to go next. How am I going to deal with life now? After about 3 months, I said to my husband, I'm not ready to give up. We need to do something else. I'm not ready to give up. Let's try something else. Maybe adoption. I briefly looked into adoption, but because we were from the UK, living in America on visas, it was a complicated situation, legally wise. So then I thought surrogacy. A few years before, I think it was I can't remember, it might have been my 5th transfer. A friend of mine in the UK had offered to be a surrogate for me, but I wasn't ready at the time. You've got to be ready. I just couldn't. I was like, no, I'm not ready because I'm going to be pregnant. This was IVF number 5 I was about to embark on, I think. I was like, no, don't want a surrogate. Can't do surrogacy. Not for me. It's great. Thank you for the offer, and I really love it for that, but can't do it. So fast forward, after the 8th fail and nothing else was working, I said to my husband, let's look at surrogacy. Remember, by this stage, we had spent an absolute fortune on all our treatments. Probably in the region of £250,000. This was over 4 years, over 8 transfers. This is supplementary, treatments like the acupuncture and all of that kind of stuff. This was various extra procedures, the extra tests, the blood tests, the genetic tests, the laparoscopy, all of those kind of procedures. I got myself a fertility coach as well, which I desperately needed. She was absolutely amazing. That's one thing I'll urge you. I'm not promoting any particular person, but if you really are struggling with the emotional side of fertility, a fertility coach is not going to get you pregnant. A fertility coach is going to help you with your mindset, help you with your emotions. She is a outside party. She's going to look at things in a way that you can't because you are in the middle of the storm. Just a fertility coach sees things from an outsider's point of view, but at the same time, because she has been through, there are some fertility coaches that they're not just coaches, that haven't actually been through infertility, and they're good at their jobs. But I really, personally, I liked the fact that my coach had been through infertility herself, because she had the professionalism to be able to coach me, but at the same time, she could empathize because she had been exactly in my position. And she was able to give me tips and points of how to really survive day by day and not break down into a big fat mess continuously. She was really a game changer for me. She helped me. I picked up my meditation again. I picked up, living in the moment, the mindfulness. And I mean, we know all this in theory, but you need a coach. You need someone cheering you on. You need someone saying, do it now. I'm going to hold you responsible. This is your homework for today, for the week. Next week, what have you done? What have you produced? What have you thought? Are you still sitting on the couch eating, 10 packets of chips and, 8 slabs of chocolate, watching back-to-back Netflix of programs you're not really interested in and just crying your heart out? Or are you actually doing something to improve your quality of life, baby or not? And that was the main message of my fertility coach, was not, I can make you pregnant, I can get you a baby. It is, can you live your best life? Can you be the best possible person that you can be? Not comparing yourself to anyone else, not comparing your life to anyone else's life, but the best possible person that you can be, whether you have a baby or no baby. And that was the crux of it. And how are we going to get there? Customizing it towards your interests, your passions, your life, your ways of coping, yours. It's very personal. So I know I sidetracked. Forgive me, I sidetrack a lot. That's just the way my mind works. I have a differently wired brain. So where was I? On the surrogacy. So my husband, so we had spent a lot of money on surrogacy. On the fertility treatments. So my husband came back and said, okay, I'm prepared to look at surrogacy if you can find me a good deal. By good deal, I mean a money back guarantee. If we don't get a baby, we want our money back. We have spent far too much money. Or a, buy one, get one free package, something to that effect. I was like, okay, the research is on. I started researching in America because that's where I lived, researching surrogacy. I found out at the time things have changed a lot in a few years, believe you me. Surrogacy has become much more mainstream, more celebrities are speaking out, more just ordinary people are speaking out. When I was researching surrogacy, it was still a taboo subject. People were still, it's a shady thing, there's so many different opinions about surrogacy. And it was a minority that were doing it, and that's why it was so expensive. So I found out that the starting point in America at the time was $100,000 starting point. This in America, it all includes, it's your lawyer fees on both sides. I think you've got to cover. You've got to pay the lump sum to the surrogate. You've got to cover her medical expenses, her maternity clothes, her food, special diet, her babysitting. Oh, there's so much, and I'm not going to go into it right now because I did not do surrogacy in America. So it's not I don't really know too much about it because I didn't continue researching. In one of the agencies that I had called, American agencies, she suggested Ukraine, and I was like, I didn't even realize Ukraine had any sort of fertility treatments. I was like, I don't know anything about Ukraine. Obviously, I knew it was a country in Eastern Europe, but I was like, what? They do fertility treatments? And she said, contact them because they are a lot cheaper. Or she said, Ukraine or Russia. I contacted Russia first, and I found a package that was by 3 cycles, and if you do not have a baby by then, you will get something like 80% of your money back. My husband was like, that's excellent. Then I researched the Ukraine and found a package that was unlimited. Pay one price and this was specifically at the time, the packages have changed over the years, but specifically at the time, it was for donor eggs. And I thought, well, I'm in my 40s, and my eggs weren't too good a few years back. They were on a slow decline, or quick decline. I don't know which, because my consultant in the UK was pushing donor eggs. I firmly believe that I should have spent more time trying to get my own eggs to work first before I jumped to the donor eggs, but that's a moot point right now. So when the package in Ukraine that I found was on donor eggs, pay one price and you have unlimited tries. It's a take-home baby guarantee. You don't pay anything extra until you get I mean, you just keep trying, sorry, until you get that baby. It's like, this is too good to be true. What? I found this information out in the July 2016. October, we were on a plane going to go see the clinic. We went to go see them. We found an egg donor that looks very similar to me. You can see it in my kids. My kids actually do look very similar to me. That's just purely by chance, but I'm not complaining. An egg donor and a surrogate within the week. This was in October 2016. Transfer or egg collection, was on the 9th of November, if I can remember correctly. 9th of November was egg collection. 14th of November was transfer, and in December we found out we were pregnant. I think it was in the January 2017 we found out that we were having twin boys. And they were born in July 2017. We spent 4 months in Ukraine because of the passports, because we are British citizens. British passport holders, their first passport takes, between 2 to 4 months, especially when overseas. So we've spent 4 months in Ukraine waiting for our baby's British passports. The paperwork was immense. The procedures were immense. It was living in Ukraine for 4 months was not easy with 2 babies when you're first-time parents, when you've got no help. When you don't speak the language. I learned some basic Russian. But when I say basic, I mean I learned to be able to read Russian because I knew I was going to be there that long. So I didn't want to walk around and be totally blind. So I did learn to read it. And I could speak, hello, how are you? Can I have this? What's milk and bread and the basics? But still, it's a very cold, unforgiving country. A lot of people love it. It's a personal taste. We were not in the center of town. The center of town is lovely. You have access to everything. We were on the outskirts, so it was a bit more difficult to get around. The closest shop was a 30-minute walk. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. After 4 months, we got our baby's passports, went back to the UK for a week, and got their American visas and back here. They are now 2.5 years old. They are totally crazy, but I love them to bits. And, yes, I will always miss the fact that I couldn't have a baby myself. I will always miss the fact that I couldn't be fully pregnant, that I couldn't give birth, that I couldn't breastfeed. There is an option for surrogate moms to breastfeed, and that's a lot of hormones to get the milk going. I opted not to do that for a few reasons. One, I was already so pumped up with so many hormones over a 4-year period that I just couldn't take any more hormones. My body was done. 2, there's no guarantee that the milk would actually stimulate after these hormones. 3, even normal people, I should say normal people, but people who can have kids regularly, even then, often do not have enough milk for twins. Although it's just not worth it. What else? I lost my train of thought again. Yes, so I always mourn the fact that I couldn't be pregnant and give birth myself and breastfeed and all those things. But let me tell you that the bonding, they say that the breastfeeding is the ultimate bonding. Honestly, I love my boys so much. I love everything about them. Okay, not their tantrums. They're in the terrible 2-3 tantrumy things. Don't like that, but I can tell you that I honestly don't know how much more I could love them. I don't know how my heart is so full and overflowing that I couldn't love them anymore, even if I had given birth to them, even if they were my genetics. Yes, I do. there are certain things that I do feel sad about, not passing on my genetics. But even in a regular pregnancy, you don't know whose genetics they're going to get mostly. It's not always. I have come across a lot of regular families that the kids take so much after one parent that you wouldn't even say that they are the natural kids of the other parent. That happens in natural. And also, there are so many things, the nuances that my kids have picked up from me that people would think it's genetic. So many times my husband will say, oh, you just like your mother. Oh, that thing that you do, that's just like your mother. That's just like your mother. I don't even feel that they're not my genetics. There's nothing, Maybe I would have liked them to have my green eyes because they've got piercing blue eyes, but my husband has piercing blue eyes, so even if we had natural, they probably still wouldn't have got my green eyes. But they look very similar to me. There's no doubt, really. I think the only thing that hits me a little bit is the age, because I am 44. My kids are 2.5, and I do often get comments by random strangers, not by people I know, but by random strangers, like in the shops, that will ask me if I'm the grandmom. So that is the only thing, but that can happen whether I gave, birth naturally. So sorry for them that I spent many years infertile. So that's the only thing. But other than that, having donor eggs and surrogacy made me the happiest woman alive to be a mom. That was the ultimate. I had to look at what was my ultimate goal. Was it to forward my genetics? That would have been nice, but that's not my ultimate goal. Was it to be pregnant, give birth, breastfeed? Yeah, I would have liked that. Was it my ultimate goal? No. Was it to be a mom and have a family? Yes, that was my ultimate goal. Have I reached that goal? Yes. Am I happy every single day of my life to have my boys? Yes. Am I excited to have them? Am I excited about everything that we did with them yesterday, I'm doing with them today, that I'm going to do with them tomorrow? That my whole life has changed completely, as it does when you become a parent. And I couldn't be happier. I don't want it any other way. And donor egg surrogacy has made that come true, has made me the happiest person alive. So I feel like I've been speaking forever. My clock here shows over 47 minutes. So I'm going to end it off there, but please feel free to ask me as many questions as you want. Before I go, I have put together 3 fertility books. The first one I wrote in 2016 when I got to America. It's called IVF, A Detailed Guide. It's everything I would have hoped to have known before I started my fertility treatments. It is a collection of all my research. I thought to myself, well, if I'm not pregnant, this was after my fail when I arrived in America. I've got all this research. It's just a pity just to, throw it all away or let it sit there and rot. Let me put this all in a book to help others. And that was my intention with that book. I really wanted to get it out there. I had spent hours and hours and hours, days, weeks, months, years doing all this research. I didn't want it to go to waste. It's available on Amazon, in ebook, in print, in audio. I'm not on the audio. I had a producer produce it for me. It is still a popular book to this day. So it was 2016, July. I think it was July 2016 it came out. Stand to be corrected. But yeah, it has. It's never gone off the top 100 in its category, top 100 books in this category. Most of the time, it's between number 1 and number 2 in various countries, in the UK, in the US, in Australia, in Canada, in Europe. Germany, Italy, Spain, France. It has really become a bestseller, and really just because I feel that it's a layman's book. It's not technical jargon. It's some technical words that I've explained, but it's because I've explained them. Because when my fertility consultant asked me, told me all about this, I'm like, what is that? I didn't get the explanations I needed. I had to go and do the research. So yeah, it explains a lot, and I speak to you in the book like I'm speaking to you now. Less mistakes, of course, because I'm a better writer than I am a speaker, so excuse my fluffing around. I really don't like being on camera at all. So that's still #1 top seller. The next book I put together was my sorry, I'm just trying to move my cat off my keyboard. The next book I put together was my Ukrainian surrogacy journey. This is all about my surrogacy journey, as it says on the tin. This book is mostly aimed at people that are interested in pursuing surrogacy, especially surrogacy in the Ukraine, because it talks about our experiences with our agency, our experiences in Ukraine. It talks about what we paid, all of those kind of things, what we needed to prepare, all of those sort of things. Be prepared. It is there's a lot of negative stuff in there, because I did have a lot of negative experiences with my agency, unfortunately. I'm not going to go into them now. A lot of the things will be in the book. So it is that kind of book. I've had a few negative, well, maybe one. I know of one negative review on that book, and someone complaining that it's just a rant and me just bitching along. And sure, it is, but it's my prerogative. I read the book, I published the book, I experienced it, so I'm just being honest. I'm not having a go at anyone for something they didn't do. So it's my kind of venting. It's my venting. I put my venting in a book, plus with extra information. And I believe that everyone needs to know the good, the bad, the ugly, and the shocking. Everyone needs to know everything, okay, before they make an informed decision. That's the surrogacy book. It's also mainly from a UK point of view, because it discussed what documents we needed, what documents we had to prepare, the procedure to get the boys their British passports, as well as they legally become the parents. For UK citizens, we had to go to court, to the High Court, and we had to state our case that they can grant the boys ours, basically say that we are the parents in every way, because in the UK it's considered that any woman that gives birth to a baby, whether they're genetically related or not, is the mother. So it's all about it has all that procedure in there and what we did. We impressed the judge, so it went well. My third book I published last year around my boy's 2nd birthday, and that is a collection of all my blog posts. I started a blog, I think Where's My Stalk? A lot of people have heard of it. Unfortunately, I have not done much with my blog since my boys were born. You can imagine the time with twins, and it's just, and first time mom, and just I don't have any family. We don't have family here. We don't have friends that, on the same, all our friends are older, so they've all got grown-up kids. So the blog post, the blog hasn't had any writing for, a few years. I would like to revive it this year. As soon as I have a moment, I would like to revive it and make it a fertility hub again. And I'll get in guest speakers, guest writers, and try and make it a bit more interesting now. So what I did was, at the time, I thought I was going to close my blog. So I took off all my blog posts since 2015. This is me being honest. So it is describing how I feel oh, I'm feeling really crappy today, or I hate my husband today, oh, I'm just so devastated, or I feel so excited, I feel inspired, I feel this and that. It's my diary. It's my online diary, which I started to vent. I started to deal with my emotions. That's why I started my online. I also started it so that I didn't have to explain individually to everyone that I knew what I was going through, especially people that don't know anything about IVF and fertility treatments. I had to explain. I explained in a blog form so that they could read it and not. I didn't have to tell my story 100 times to everybody. So when my boys were born, I thought, because I didn't have the time, I thought I was going to shut down my website completely, which is why I took off all my blog posts. But I didn't want to lose them because it's part of my boys' like being, their heritage, how they got here, and it's a keepsake for them. So, but I've put them all in I've put them all in a book, which is called The Highs and Lows of My Infertility. And it's really it's just me discussing every day as live as it was happening. So I just really put them in there, transferred them from my blog post. You won't find them on Where's My Stalk anymore, as I say, because I thought I was going to shut it down. So it's in that book, and that's also available on Amazon in print or ebook. And that's it. Any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I hope you find this useful. I hope I can help someone. So have a great day. Bye. Someone's at my door now. Bye.